Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are across this great planet of ours. Southern Cross ESports Winter Series coming to you live from Fuji International Speedway on the SimSpeed Network. And what a race we've got for you. If last week is anything to be a guide, we've got two races coming up for you tonight, following on from the qualifying session, which has just started now. And I'm joined by Dan Yeaman tonight, Stuart Brown here on the comms, as we look to get into the midpoint, almost the midpoint of the Winter Series here at Fuji, Dan.
Yes, indeed, Stu. Thanks for the introduction there, and welcome to everyone who is joining us live, or if you're watching it back afterwards on SimSpeed's channels. And yeah, looking forward to this one here. Jumping in to fill for Jake Kennedy, who's here with you, Stu. But new series here this Wednesday night in particular, in partnership with Motorsport Australia over on Dirt Rally 2.0. So I'm just yet be temporarily filling in at least. So unfortunately, won't be around to see much more of this, I believe, after this week. But yeah, looking like it's going to be a good race. Good numbers out there so far tonight, and yeah, great track to be covering here at the Fuji International Speedway. Speaking of which, we'll take a look at here from the Google Earth view to start things off.
Yeah, absolutely. Super Sub Dan in for the weekend. So we're just having a look here. Fuji, not a track that I've done a lot of racing at in sim, and certainly not in real life, but a track that's going to definitely produce some great racing in these Porsches tonight. As we zoom in on this amazing Google Earth view that we've got there, you can see the track outline just coming into play tonight. So we're running this track. There are alternate layouts of this one. There is a chicane that can come into play here. We're not running that track tonight. So a nice long straight, but it's going to be really challenging, but great with the flow of this circuit. Very similar to last week when we were at Magna Court. Turn one, of course, going to be a prime passing opportunity for the drivers down into Daichi. But the 100R and 300R corners down into Dunlop as well, going to be great for us to watch, as well as Nets corner and down into the final corner at Panasonic. So 4.5 kilometers, 16 turns at Fuji Speedway. Relatively new map to come to the iRacing service as well. Came out a couple of seasons ago and has proven to be quite popular, particularly in the GT series and some of the smaller cars as well. So perfect one, and one that we're excited to bring to you in this this series as well before we head to some more traditional tracks. Let's have a look at the format for tonight's racing. We do have a 15-minute qualifier now, which, as I mentioned, drivers just getting into 20-minute sprint race to start things off, and then we do have a 45-minute feature race where the top 12 drivers from our sprint race will be reversed in their position, and they will be required to take a pit stop for 4 tyres. The pit lane entry here at Fuji, a challenge, which is one that we'll talk about as well as we lead into the first race, but tyre strategy has shown to be critical in the rounds prior to this one, where the tyres have struggled to get up to temperature last week. We're not going to struggle with that this time, with track temps well and truly up into the mid-30s and beyond. But tyre, therefore, strategy, go early, run long, or pit late, and try and make those tyres count is going to play in the results for that feature race when we bring that to you a little bit later on in the program.
Yeah, indeed. It is an interesting format. We're curious to see how drivers kick things off. There is also the fact that fuel tank limitations and fixed setup in this series. So drivers will have to keep that in mind, that if they come to the pits early, they might need to stretch the fuel a little bit and find ways to save. Not too bad here at Fuji, of course, given the long straights, and if the cars obviously stay packed together, that'll help things there, that's for certain. But if you go off strategy, then you're going to be on your own there for the most part, which will make things a little bit more difficult in that respect. Speaking of, well, things leading up into tonight, here's how things looked after that round 3 last week at Circuit de Magny-Cours. It looks like it's Ben Breyer who's pulling out a nice lead at the front of the field. Here's Stu. That looks to be 65 points to his favour over teammate Trevor Leonard in the Racecraft Motorsport colours for those two there, but it is pretty tight when you start looking at the margins further on back there. For example, 2 points between Mazomo in third in the 9.5 SimSport car, denying that from being an all Racecraft Motorsport podium, with Thiago Massadou right behind, and then the fact that Mike Pepper's only another 6 points back to make it 8 points between third and 5th.
Yeah, it's very close and tight at the top, and of course we saw last week Mazomo and Leonard fight out at the Brazier, I should say, fight out an intense sprint race that was less than a hundredth of a second between them across the line, with Mazomo taking out the round win too. Look, Ridley, Pringle and Kuznetsov certainly still in the hunt, with Rick Kuznetsov not around last week as well, so missing the round with a schedule conflict, and Clint Harvey and Kurt Rose still well and truly in the hunt with this one. As I said, this is the halfway point, or we'll be halfway through this at the conclusion of this 8-round series tonight. So everyone's still in play here. A couple of disastrous results for any of those at the top can certainly bring those hot on the heels right back into this one.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to seeing how things play out as a result. Well, qualifying is now almost 2/3 done, so it's probably best we start looking at the action on track here. Stewards will bring everything into view for you all here, watching along here at home. And, well, no surprises to me at least that Rick Kuznetsov up on the provisional pole time, on a 1 minute 37.9 and has almost 2/10 to his name. But it is not a super big margin, just certainly looking comfortable at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a huge field here tonight as well, so at this track, qualifying going to be really, really important for the drivers, as it always is. We say that every week, but it definitely is going to be really important here. We saw a lot of mess in a couple of the prior rounds in that sprint race, which meant drivers were having to try and resurrect their evening coming through the field. A couple of good executions of that as well. Mike Howlett comes to mind in the 45 entry of someone who managed to drive back through the field last week after a tumultuous first race where he copped not only some accident damage but a drive-through penalty as well as a consequence of it. So there's plenty here who'll be able to get through, but they'll be looking to improve that to start from the front. Kuznetsov, one of them, Mazomo, another who's struggled with a little bit of bad luck throughout the series. He sort of brushed that off his back, I should say, last week. Getting the back-to-back wins. He's on screen now. Currently sitting in P3. He will most certainly be challenging Kuznetsov and Leonard towards this one. And important to note too, a hard cut-off here for qualifying as well. So if you haven't completed that flying lap by the time that clock strikes 0, with the way that the sim sets it up, the lap will be done and it won't count. So these drivers have got to keep one eye on the clock as well to make sure that they can try and get through those final margins.
Yeah, that will be important indeed. As we'll right on board here with the zone, I think, for a little bit. Stu, see how he does it through Fuji National Speedway. A little wide down the exit of turn 3 there, but that is part of the game there, is pushing the limits as you around that corner and then bring it around the super long, I believe it's 100R there for turn 4. And then switch back into what they call the hairpin there for turn 5 before the next of our radius named turns comes up here at 300R, which is not that first kink, it's a second kink here, and then down into the section where we'll skip by the chicane into the slow and technical final section of this lap.
Yeah, absolutely, really important here to get a good exit if you're going to get a good run down that final straight. So you just see that we're struggling with a little bit of understeer, had to correct that there as well. Right out over those sausage curves. That's going to penalise the lap a little bit as he brings it back around through. Get off camber there as well, so that'll catch a couple of the drivers out, particularly on cold tyres, and even later on when the tyres have worn in these hot conditions, as he brings it around to complete the lap, make the run down the straight here to bring it across the line. Pretty generous on the track limits here too, not getting a penalty, I don't believe, for that run across the sausage curves there, so he must have just kept it inside the line but it will hurt his lap time. You just see there 39.3, so well away from his best, and certainly away from the pole time. There, Rick Kuznetsov improved his last flying lap around. Sorry for that one. He 37.81.
And he did that with a little bit of toe assistance. As you can see there, Mazomo now in behind the Triple Eight. I think they've got time maybe here to set up one final run here, but it's going to be close if they're not they go slow here. Tiago Massadou jumps himself up in the meantime to second place in that number 2 entry to a 38.0. A gap of just over a quarter of a second to your provisional pole setter in Kuznetsov. So time here for Tiago to go one more, but now got some traffic in front of him too that he'll have to try and figure out as well, which might be make things a little bit difficult for him here.
And here's another driver who'll be looking to try and close out a good round tonight. He did get penalised last week, and he's one of the great drivers to watch actually in this series. Very aggressive in the right way in getting the car through the field. Just wasn't quite able to close it out over the last couple of weeks, which could see him a little bit further up the standings. Of course, he's 4th at the moment, just a couple of points behind Simon Mazomo, but could well and truly be in 2nd if he was able to close out his evening. So keep an eye on Tiago as this evening progresses. Having a look at Brody Watts here in the 949 entry. He's currently sitting P10 and just looking if he can improve on the 38.7 that he has executed so far as Richard Mayer moves up into 4th. So Mazomo now down into 5th. That lap where he run wide really starting to hurt now as he's running out of time to move himself up. And in fact, he's actually in pit lane, so that'll be it for him. Richard Mayer doing a good job. Another consistent performer in this field. Currently sitting just inside the top 10 as well. So right on board with Richard now. See if he can do anything better on this last flying lap that he's going to get. Just look here to see who our last closing lap
now
will be.
So whoever's across the line about now will give it about a second or two to go. Stu, that's who we're going to want to try and pick up. So I think the answer might be
Chase Hoy.
Yeah, triples.
Jackson Pringle may get across the line. He's into his lap.
I think it's a bit late now by about, maybe we'll have to rewind about 20 seconds from where we were just then. So we'll look out for maybe the 777 of Chase Hoy. I think might be our last car that'll get a lap in time. As we'll stay here with Mayer though to see if he can round this lap off as he's looked stable and steady. Let's see if it'll be enough to improve. He's winding on the lock here for the final turn here, then not overdoing the rears at the same time. Looks okay, I think, and he'll be able to pick up some toe in this long run in the back. He thinks he's going for pits here, so I think that's unfortunately going to be lap abandoned. Yes, it will be.
So that it's not going to improve things for him. Jumping off the track, maybe make some last minute adjustments just before we get race 1 underway here. David Hughes crosses the line in a 40 flat. Able to do much for improving his position, so he will start out of 28th.
Was an improvement, mind you, so there was that going for him here. Chase Hoy, very close, but not quite. Won't improve his time there, unfortunately. Cars in the background, looks like maybe the 39. No, there we go. Qualifying will end on us there, and that will do it for the session. So now, that means we get to turn our attention towards the grid here for the opening race this evening.
So having a look here, Rick Kuznetsov takes out another pole position with a 37.8. It was Tiago Massadou who was able to pull into 2nd place to start on the front row alongside Kuznetsov for the sprint race. And it's Trevor Leonard and Richard Mayer rounding out row 2 in the racecraft and juiced entries, followed by Simon Mazomo and Chase Hoy off row 3. To move a bit further back, it's Ben Brazier and Brody Watts off row 4, with Kurt Rose and Mike Pepper rounding out the top 10 on row 5. Then it's Harry Dodds in the 981 and Clint Harvey off row 6, with Kyle Ridley and Jackson Pringle off row 7. And as we head to row 8, it's John Akers and Trevor Hearn looking to push their way up potentially into a pole for that next main feature race, with Mike Howlett and John O'Killy, who is in for tonight's race, And it's Sam Derua and Dean Hunt off row 10. Hopefully Sam can shake off those internet issues he had last week to produce a performance. To move further back to Connor Nixon and Cam Edwards. And it's Rob Crisdale and Barry Punter off row 12, followed by Michael Thompson and Nathaniel Coburn off 13. Big grid here tonight. Paul Brockbank, David Hughes next in line off row 14. And then it's TJ and Greg Levine off 15. Rounding out our field tonight, Andrew Lachlan and John Lee.
And then I think
So there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah, we've got Jesse McMiniman, who has just slid in there into the back of the field of 35th.
So yeah, 35 total. That includes our 2 race control cars. So 33 drivers. They all hit the grid here to get this race underway. Stu, as we just await the timer to reach 0 and the formation lap to begin here. And indeed, there we go. We'll start pacing here on this abbreviated lap of the Fuji International Speedway. And then it'll be time for this race to get underway.
Yeah, absolutely. A big field here, so early mistakes will be extremely costly for the drivers as well, so they'll be looking to avoid those. And of course, that ever important P12 as well for the provisional pole, sorry, I should say for pole position of our feature race as well. So they'll be fighting right throughout the field, right throughout this 20-minute heat race. Who's going to bring it home? Will it be Kuznetsov? Will we have a new race winner with Masadou bringing one home? Let's get on with it and see. Track temp at the moment, 46, so stifling. So the drivers will feel that right throughout this race as we come around the final corner here. Turn 16, you'll see the pace car will peel off, or the safety car will peel off when we get around to the start-finish line, or I should say into the pit entry. Get this one underway. What are you looking forward to tonight? Dan, what are you expecting to see here?
Well, as I said, big pack of cars, a lot of drafting opportunities here down the long straights. That is here at Fuji. So hopefully looking forward to seeing a tight race where the leaders are going to struggle to break away given all that drafting that could happen. Speaking of which though, Kuznetsov puts the foot down. We go green here to get the opening race at Fuji underway. And look at the gap he's immediately pulled on the rest of the field, it seems. Clean gap as the field streaks their way down on into turn number 1.
Lots of jostling in the background there, 2-3 wide. In the background is deep under brakes. You see Tiago Macedo go there with Trevor Leonard in behind him. It's 2x2 they go. In fact, we've got 3 wide in the middle there. It looks like Jackson Pringle in the middle of the sandwich in the VMM entry. Getting through cleanly though. It looks like everyone's made a clean start here. And as you said, Kuznetsov got off to a blinder. He was well and truly out in front. But Macedo, Leonard and Mayer, as we've got someone off in the background there, just on the infield of the track. Trevor Mayer will be looking to get their way back up onto the back of Kuznetsov and push him for the lead. Otherwise, there's contact in the background. The 54 of Clint Harvey gets into the door. I think it was of Mike Howlett. A couple of wide there. Not too bad. It doesn't look like there's much damage as everyone tries to get through this first lap. You can see as well, pretty hazy here, just with the heat. So we had cold tyres, the track conditions difficult. So survival is important, as I think Dean Hunt has gone off in the background too. So he is free falling down through the field. There he is on screen there. Try and bring you a replay of that one where we can. As he looks to have got back on, not too much damage in the Juice Motorsport entry there.
Richard Mayer dropping a lot of spots as well. And it's an iRacing slowdown for Tiago Macedo. So watch here for the Racecraft Motorsport entry to unfortunately have to drop a whole bunch of spots. And indeed loses 2 spots there to Leonard and Mizomo as they will streak by. Look at this, here we go now. Macedo still having to serve that drive-through slowdown penalty, sorry. It's not quite an iRacing black flag. It looks like he got it served now, but look how they come down the run to turn 1 and they are swarming like an angry pack of bees. And Macedo is in the middle of it all. He will finally be able to go back to racing pace here off of turn 1, but now has dropped all the way back from what was 2nd place to 8th. Not what he was looking for at the start of this race.
No, definitely not. In the background, someone ran wide as well, just out breaking themselves down in turn 1. There's another one as well. Another one of the race car boys look like they've got, as you saw on the bottom of the screen there, just ran deep into the corner. So drivers struggling early with the heat here. Still 17 to go One who's not is Rick Kuznetsov. He's 2 seconds to the good ahead of Simon Zomo at the front of the field. We'll keep focused on this swarm of cars here around P6. In fact, we've got everyone from Chase Hoy, P3, right the way back to P10 involved in this little pack. So any small mistake will cost you dearly. As you saw there, Thiago Macedo with that slowdown, as there's a little bit of contact there in the background. Really suffering for that slowdown. He got swarmed down the front straight, down into turn 1. And he's now having to battle his way back through. So that sort of bad luck continues for Macedo. If he will work his way back through the pack, he can rest assured. So Chase Hoy also just getting a little bit of a gap on Brazier, but the pressure coming back to him now. So strengths and weaknesses of these particular drivers. And there is a drive-through penalty there for TJ as well for contact on lap 1. I think that may have been into the door of... I thought we saw who it was. The mind escapes me right now. But there was a little bit of contact into a door, I believe. I might have a replay here.
This is Dean Hunt who had that incident that got called in. I'm just going to see. It was, oh, yeah, that's definitely TJ there, unfortunately. Missed the braking marker and has speared into the side there of the number 8. So unfortunately, that one's a bit of a slam dunk drive-through penalty.
And getting luck there on the rejoin as well. Just off the track, 77. Again, looks like he may have run deep. And there's someone else as well. I think it might be, unfortunately, John Lee, who's having a spin in the background. The driver's struggling. I think the Dunlop corner, it may have been turn 10. It's got Michael Thompson on screen as well. So these cars very easy to rotate if you're not familiar with this package. No ABS, no traction control at all. So it is a raw driving car. And that is one of its appeals, but it means if you make a mistake, if you jump on the throttle too much without getting the rear planted, it is very easy to damage the car. And there's Mike Pepper. He has lost the front bar on that Porsche. In fact, that's got severe damage. That left-hand front corner of the car is broken, so he will be requesting a tow. And if not given, we could see a caution here.
Just see if that happens before we move on. So this excellent battle pack that's brewing here, and indeed safety car will be scrambled here by race control. So unfortunately, indeed, that terminal damage for Mike Pepper has now done him out of the race. A lot of race control calls coming in as well here. So as you see, as drivers now need to slow themselves down. Obviously, we're under the control of...
This is interesting here. I'm not sure if everyone's heard the call or not. It looks like they're proceeding as normal. Looks like Mazzomo might have got... there's an attempted pass there. In fact, you can see in the background there that there's a pass going on between Brazier and Hoy. So we'll see. Perhaps they haven't heard the call, or maybe we heard it wrong, but we'll keep going for a minute and see what happens out of this. As there is a redress there from Ben Brazier actually against Chase Hoy, so maybe now the news just getting across the radio.
Looks like I might have found here Mike Pepper. See the incident, unfortunately, that's brought out this safety car here. So we see here, so it's with Thiago Macedo on his outside here on the run down towards... And oh dear, there, that's... flung both cars way off-road, and Pepper's there just... launched. Yeah, indeed, that's a... So we go back again, here's Stu, and grab an onboard shot with him perhaps, and see if we can get a very good read on how it's happened.
Yeah, so you can see here, he's some of these drivers, and we'll go through it in a minute, but he's just not able to see there, and I think Macedo just gets across the back of him as well. So definitely not at fault there for Mike Pepper, and you'd expect Thiago Macedo, unfortunately, probably be paying a visit through pit lane. But some of these drivers with these setups, they have single screens or triple monitors, so peripheral vision can be a challenge, but certainly not an issue there for Macedo, you'd feel. That Pepper probably couldn't even see him there, so it'd be interesting to see how they unravel that one. But I think with the consistency we've seen so far in this season, that Macedo will find himself in a little bit of strife.
Yeah. Not quite. Yeah, we'll be curious to see how that gets resolved. Because unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be much good of it there. Here's a bit of chatter in my ears. Apparently, our driver's still not aware that we're under safety car or passing under safety car towards the back of the field or something about that, which is not what we want to see.
Yeah, there was plenty of it going on, as we mentioned. Even to the point where it confused us, or certainly me, whether or not the pace car had actually been called. I'm sure that there's going to be some redressing that needs to be done as a result of this. Maybe they'll just sort it out if everyone didn't hear it and let the drivers redress rather than trying to address it through penalties and the like. We'll see what happens here. The real penalty here, actually, for Rick Kuznetsov. He set off into the distance and was running for the finish line with about 14 to go before all this started unfolding, and so he's lost his advantage, and as a consequence he has Mazomo right behind him now, so albeit teammates will be under some pressure to keep things moving forward. So we've seen Kuznetsov and Mazomo work together before a couple of rounds ago to execute a race lead that came unstuck, the teammates coming into contact, so that won't happen again this time. We'll try and build a lead together to get away from Chase Hoy, who was fighting hard with Ben Brazier and the pack behind him. So we'll be going around here for a couple of laps. So end of line there for Barry Punter as well for passing under the safety car. So it looks like they are going to try and fix this through penalty. But he'll just have to pull over and end of line, meaning he literally will need to go to the back of the field.
Yeah, that's not too good there. In fact, actually, the initial penalty was going to be the 440 was going to be required to pull in and retire from the race there. So that could have been, in a sense, a whole lot worse for Barry Punter, and a bit of an appeal there from Cam Edwards actually over the in-game radios to minimise that one here. There's information from race control coming through that we are going to have just one more lap here behind the safety car, so that will but it sounds like, yeah, there's more drivers wanting to ensure their place in the queue is correct, which could make things interesting here, Stu. If we've only got about 3/4 of a lap left to go to make sure that everyone is satisfied with the position they're in. That might need an extra lap to delay things potentially as well.
Difficult thing to do live if you've ever been involved in it. If you're watching, it's really, really hard for race control to try and address all these issues when they're compressed into, at best, a 2-minute 40 period for them to try and sort it out and have the drivers actually execute the changes that they need to. So it might be better to take that extra lap than to have these protests resolved outside the race. I'm assuming in that objection that you heard, Dan, that it was based on the fact that they didn't quite hear the communication that there was a caution out.
From what I'm hearing in my ear, that big issue for the 440 was apparently not being able to hear race control over the in-game comms, and it had to be relayed via Discord to the driver. Been told just overhearing as well that race control are satisfied with the positions of everyone else now. So looks like here with about 8.5 minutes caught, almost 8 minutes depending on how long Kuznetsov chooses to wait here, we'll be going back green here at the end of this lap here, which is going to be good to see. We'll see how long Kuznetsov chooses to wait here before he puts the foot down at the front of the field. Long straight, so I would presume once again he'll be happy to bide his time here before he gets this race restarted.
Yeah, I'm wondering if everyone's heard it, because the field's actually quite elongated. You want to be compressed as much as you can here to try and maximise your start, particularly if he sets off early. So you can see there on board, Mazomo is right on his tail because he knows that he needs to be ready when he goes as well. But the field here, you can see the driver's still quite a spread all the way back. There's a huge gap there in the field as well. As we go green and Kuznetsov sets off to get us restarted with 8 minutes to go. So we're going to be looking at around about 5 laps at best, probably 4 laps, as there's a dive down the inside from Zomo. That's probably just protecting from Chase Hoy, who's looking to potentially make a move down into turn 1. There's 2 or 3 wide in the background as well, as Cam Edwards looks to make a challenge down into turn 1. Looks like Trevor Leonard's got a good run as well on Brody Watts. Tiago Macedo as well is fighting it out with Harry Dodds, so plenty of people contesting in this early restart phase, as someone's down on the inside of the track there as well. They may get a slowdown for that. Again, that was Tiago Macedo there, just using all of the available track and then some, as he's trying to make hay on Harry Dodds. He's doing well. He's got everyone all over the back of him. Just managing that quite well. There's a gap developing already between himself and Richard Mayer. He's set off in the distance with Brody Watson Leonard in pursuit of Ben Brayer. But it is Kuznetsov and Mazomo at the front who have executed this best. So Kuznetsov has second advantage over his teammate, and Mazomo bridging on a second over Chase Hoy as well at the front.
Yeah, looking fairly stable at the front here. The fighting is on back here as we've got 3 wide almost up into turn number 13 here on this. And then it's actually going to be a almost 2 wide 2. And it looks like, yeah, further information coming through. I unfortunately missed out what car number it is, but it's going to be a penalty postponed into race 2 to be issued in the first 5 minutes. So we'll find out what it was. But it was for passing before the start-finish line. So we'll see here how that goes. As pass with P3, by the way, is going to be Ben Brayer up the middle of ahead of Chase Hoy, but yeah, Hoy on the inside might be able to hold this one off, and you've got Trevor Leonard trying to get involved in here as well.
Yeah, 3-way tangle. 2 of the Racecraft boys really all over Chase Hoy here, but he's done a good job to do the switch back there and get P3 back from Ben Brayer as well. So it's on here at the front for these positions. It's the same right behind them as well, so any mistake is going to cost you dearly, as there's a huge pack of cars hunting behind them. You can see that the battle for third brought up on the screen. It is very, very close. We've got a tissue covering 5 cars at the moment. Straight ahead, unfortunately, it looks like Richard Mayer, so just not able to get that turned in, and had to jump on the anchors to try and get it stopped. So that takes him out of the battle. And you've got the 948 there of Richard Mayer just trying to turn around. So it's all gone wrong for him. And there's a bumper bar there as well as he spun it around again. I think that might be TJ's bar. So Brody Watts, in fact, it is, in the 949 Motorsport entry. He is in a world of hurt, that Porsche, looking at very, very second hand. Again, Kurt Rosé off as well. So there's a lot of carnage going on in the background here. No one stopped, so no caution needed. Clint Harvey's now dropped down the order as well. Oh, there's huge damage in the background there. Looks like through the sequence of maybe 10 and 11, maybe down into 13 even. Chrisdale as well on turn 16. There's a bunch, so there's a heap of drivers now maybe looking to duck down into pit lane to get repairs. No, not at all. Yes, in he comes. So he's in some trouble there, Chrisdale.
iRacing black flag he's picked up during the lap. Stu, so unfortunately going to have to serve that one there now, which will put him well out of the order. Just seen also Kyle Ridley's exchange places here with Harry Dodds there, chasing down after Cam Edwards, who's now our biggest mover, or equal biggest mover of the races. Yeah, we've got drivers bouncing up and down all over the field. I mean, look at this here. We've got amongst this pack of cars, which starts with John O'Killy here, which is 15th place. But then you can see behind him it is an absolute swarm of at least 5 other cars chasing down the spot that he currently holds on to here. And I think there might be a couple more for good measure.
Absolutely, and like Jesse McMenamin's in that pack. He's up 17 spots as well, so he's another one of those huge movers from the night. And he's trying to maybe grab a couple of extra positions here if he can. Or sorry, 15 spots. So 3 drivers there, Edwards, Hughes and McMenamin, all up 15 positions. Nixon behind him, 11 positions. So there's been some huge changes as a consequence of this safety car period on the restart. None of the drivers leaving anything on the table as well. And let's not lose sight of the fact that at the moment Trevor Hearn is actually in P12. So that's provisional pole for our feature race. So David Hughes and this pack behind them are the next drivers in contention for that. And they're not far away from it either. So we've got probably 2 laps to go to try and get that position if they can, to maybe turn the fortunes of their night around. As David Hughes moves up into that position now.
Yes, indeed. As I'm watching here, Michael Howlett unfortunately lost a spot on the exit of turn 1 as Chase Hoy and Ben Breyer have just gone back and forth again. And it's going to get Trevor Leonard involved here as Breyer might just lose 2 spots on the exit of turn 1 on this run down to, well, he's actually turn 3. Little kink counts as a bend. And yeah, indeed, Breyer will drop back 2 spots there under brakes in the opening part of the lap. Meanwhile, you've got drivers like Clint Harvey and Dean Hunt scrapping here over 16th place on the road. Yeah, it is now Hughes with the most places gained, but as you said, he actually double that. He's got the most places gained for the time being, and he also currently
comes into that all-important P12.
P12, indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jackson Pringle's not going to die wondering in the VMM entry, or Virtual Motorsport Mentor entry. So he is going to keep chasing him down here, try and execute for that lead. As you said, Hoy and Breyer continuing to change positions up in for P3, and Trevor Leonard as well copying a little bit of damage or a little bit of contact there from his teammate. But here it is again. Jackson Pringle looking down the inside. Is he able to get it turned in enough there and get it done? In fact, he does, because David Hughes runs wide and opens the door as well for Michael Howlett to make a pass. He's going to get, if he can get it up underneath there, which he's trying to do. Oh, he's cooked the tyres there. It's just too hot for David Hughes, and he's dropped 2 positions there. Jackson Pringle running off a little bit now in that P12, so he's got to just get his head down and execute here. Michael Howlett won't die wondering at all. He will try and close that gap down, as we're going to have this one for these drivers and one more.
Yeah, I think Pringle's just made a really nice job of it there in that moment. Stu, good run off of the final corner and has checked out by 1.2 seconds, as Hughes will have another go at it here into turn 1, but going to be about a second on back still on corner exit, so unless he can have a really good lap, or Pringle has a bit of a rough one, I get the feeling that number 11 car has just secured itself the 12th position. I'm sure they'll be after. Meanwhile, more scrapping further on down the back of the field here. It is for 23rd, but not the 2 drivers. You have Kurt Rose, Andrew Lachlan, and then you also bring in a couple more drivers in behind in the form of Paul Brockbank and John Lee. Pardon me, not John Lee, apologies. We've got lap car in the mix over there. So just 3 cars in position. 151, the 115, and the 19 of Brockbank, who is now in the red PPD design space. We've got one of our racecraft cars, I think it's out of position. Nope, it's the Frog Leap car, apologies. In all that.
The Frog Leap I think is the one out of the way. He's out trying to make amends. But racing right throughout the field. No questions asked here. Wondered what you'd be in for. You're seeing it right now as we're on our final lap. Kuznetsov is on his way to head across the start-finish line and takes out this race. And it is going to be Chase Hoy who's going to get the job done here on Ben Breyer. You can just see onboard here with Breyer. And he's going to get the job done to close out P4.
I think... Oh no, they are braking early. Okay. For a second there, I was expecting we had one more lap, but it looks like, yeah, we've, timing loop just,
literally seconds, less than seconds with Kuznetsov crossing the line just after the clock turned over, so no white flag for us in this one. And it is going to be Jackson Pringle who's going to bring home the bacon for P12, so he will be our provisional pole sitter, or our pole sitter, in fact, not provisional. Unless there's any post-race penalties, which I'm not expecting, so he'll take out that one. But it is Kuznetsov who takes out another win in the series with his teammate Simon Mazzomo right behind him. And Chase Hoy managing to close out that one and secure P3 for him. So that will be a good return on points for him. Let's have a quick look at it here. Ben Breyer bringing in P4. The plethora of racecraft boys there with Trevor Leonard and Tiago Macedo coming into P6. The Vermilion Motorsports entry of Kyle Ridley in 7 with Cam Edwards in 8th. Harry Dodds getting back to P9 and Connor Nixon rounding out our top 10. Then we have a look. Trevor Hearn in 11 with Jackson Pringle in 12. David Hughes 13th. Michael Howlett 14th with John O'Keeley into 15th. Clint Harvey 16th with Dean Hunt in 17th. Jesse McMenamin up into 18th after starting rear of field. That's a great drive from him with Sam Derua 19th and John Akers in 20th. Then we have Nathaniel Coburn in 21st. Greg Levine coming in 22nd with Kurt Rose in 23rd Andrew Lachlan 24th, 25th for Paul Brockbank. Good battle for those towards the end of the pack. TJ, I should say, in 26th will be looking to make amends for race 1 in race 2. Michael Thompson 27th, John Lee 28th, Barry Punter after that penalty 29th, and Mike Pepper in 30th position, 1 lap behind. Rounding out our field, it was Brodie Watts, Rob Crisdale and Richard Mayer.
Yep, thankfully not too many retirements, but unfortunately for those couple of drivers towards the back, damage was substantial enough to cause them to have to tow or fall back way behind where they would like to be. We'll take a really short break here on SimSpeed TV, ladies and gentlemen, and then we'll get ready for race number 2 to bring us all the way to the conclusion of tonight's action. Stay with us here. Now back with you live as we continue our coverage here, ladies and gentlemen, of the 4th round of the Southern Cross ESports Winter Series from Fuji International Speedway. And now just getting set and ready to roll for our feature race tonight to wrap things up. My name is Daniel Yeaman, and jumping into the comms box here with Stuart Brown, and usually brings you this series here, and also double up on camera. Stu will be back with us in just a moment's notice here, as about a minute away from heading to the grid for race number 2 to wrap things up here this evening. In case you missed the start of the broadcast here, this is what you can expect for this final race. We invert the results of the top 12 from race number 1, which we do have a couple of drivers who are picking up penalties. We'll make sure to bring them up on screen for you as those penalties are issued and must be served within the opening 5 minutes, because they are carrying over from the end of race number 1. The other important thing is that we do have compulsory pit stops in this series. It will be 4 tyres that the drivers are required to take, and that pit window opens at 5 minutes elapsed, and at the 40 minutes elapsed mark. So 35-minute pit window there for the drivers to have to negotiate. And then we'll see here if we can actually bring up. We might not be able to bring up the grid, unfortunately, but what we'll do is we'll grab the race results for you, ladies and gentlemen, just so you can have a look at them here once again, in case you just missed it. So we're going to obviously flip this top 12, which unfortunately not the top 10 there on screen, but if we can imagine, Kuznetsov in 12th, Mazomo back in 11th, Hoy out of 10th with Breyer out of 9th with alongside Leonard in 8th, Massadou and Ridley 7th and 6th respectively for those 2 drivers, with Cam Edwards starting this next race in 5th, Harry Dodds in 4th on the 3rd row, start of the back of the 2nd row, sorry, alongside Connor Nixon there, who will be 3rd, and then it'll be Trevor Hearn and Jackson Pringle to lead us away. And, well, speaking of which, I think we can actually now bring that up for you here on screen as the session has transitioned over, which means that we can start to look at that one here and get that one up on screen. Yes, indeed we can. So we'll just quickly rifle through your top 12 as said, read them as call them out there, and then it will be there we go, our front runners from race number 1, and then carrying on down the order as race number 1 order. So David Hughes out of 13th with Michael Howard alongside him in 14th for row 7. John O'Keeley and Clint Harvey in 15th and 16th position. Dean Hunt and Jesse McEneman off of row number 9 to get this one underway. And they'll be sharing, or behind them I should say, Sam DeRua and John Ackers to round out our top 20 for this one. Nathaniel Coburn and Greg Levine, 21st and 22nd to their name to get this one underway, with Kurt Rose and Andrew Lachlan on the 12th row here towards the back of the field. Paul Brockbank and TJ 25th and 26th respectively for them here, as we see the field starting to pull away in the background. 27th to Michael Thompson and John Lee there on our 14th row of the grid. Top 30 going to be Barry Punter and Mike Pepper. Our final 3 cars being Brodie Watts, Rob Crisdale and championship mare for our drivers here in the Southern Cross ESports 2023 Winter Series.
Cars to get us underway here for our feature race. As Dan said, pit stops critical here. When do they go, early or late? Do they take the advantage of running long and having fresh tyres at the end in these high temperatures? We'll see as the pace car pulls away into pit lane here at Fuji Speedway. And we'll get underway here for the run down to turn 1. It's Jackson Pringle waiting for the wave of the flag from Barney, and it's off, and he goes and drops the hammer. And Pringle is off, gets a good start in the number 11 car with Trevor Hearn right behind him, and there'll be plenty of jostling in the background. You can see 3 wide in the background for 6th, 7th and 8th. In fact, it looks like 5 wide if you look close enough. And there's going to be some cold breaks here. Can everyone get their way through? It looks like they can too. 3 wide in the mid-pack there, but everyone gets through cleanly through turn 1. It's a long race here, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. You don't want it to be done on turn 1. So Richard Mayer might have run a little bit wide there. Rick Kuznetsov already making his way up. He's up to P9 already. Mazomo sitting in 11th still. There's been a couple of small changes, but Pringle has made a good start at the front here. Already out to a solid gap. As we're 2 wide now. Oh, there's a lock up there from the 888 as well. So Rick Kuznetsov glides a little bit wide there. Let's set Simon Mazomo underneath him. His teammate is now got Ben Breyer to deal with on this first lap. You can see that the number 5 of Breyer all over the back of Kuznetsov and Mazomo, who go 2 wide, defending into what is turn 10. So make their way through this first lap, still defending, still 2 wide. There's some offs in the background. There's a huge accident in the background as well. 5 or 6 drivers involved in that one. Not sure if everyone's going to get going.
Oh my word, 2 massive incidents happening at exactly the same time here. One down here at turn 10, and the other one immediately happening at turn 11. So Paul Brockbank, one of the cars that has not got going here. We've got Harry Dodds, Kurt Rose up at 11, and more trouble it seems. Oh, on the exit of the final corner, we've got cars around. Yeah, this is at least 6 or 7 cars entangled, and now slow going as they recover. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, it's on between Hearn and Pringle as they're trying to scrap here whilst we try and get our bearings on everything that's happening. Cam Edwards dropping in the order as you're coming into the pits right off the start here. I think that is, yeah, we've got 3 mechanical black flags, as well as a couple of drivers who also have black flags from elsewhere already need come serve here, unfortunately.
Yeah, Harvey, Edwards and Mayer all into pit lane. Brockbank as well, he is out. He's done for the night in that one. As you said as well, Hearn and Pringle fighting at the front there. Looked like both drivers very conservative down into turn 1, lap 2, and that allowed Connor Nixon to close the gap under brakes massively. So any advantage there has been lost. Mike Pepper looks like he's had an incident as well. So he's off, I think, at 100R. Mechanical black flag, there it is, 7, 19 and 151. So there's plenty of work to do there, and of course that not within the compulsory pit stop window either, so anything that those drivers do now will not count. They will have to stop again in this race to get the compulsory pit stop done. Of course, has to be served within after 5 minutes of elapsed time, and before 40 minutes of this race has elapsed, so just outside that window, so that's not good for those drivers. So big changes. Kuznetsov out of all that though, up 7 spots. He's into 5th, and Mazomo into 6th, so they're not waiting around to see how they go. And Brody Watts up 16 places, if you don't mind, with Robert Crisdale behind him as well, now into 17 spots for Brody into P14.
Seeing on my screen, yeah, 3 drivers have drive-throughs now issued from race number 1 here, which is going to see them have to come in and serve those. So it's number 45 of Michael Howlett, the 54 of Clint Harvey, and the 808 Robert Christo.
And are they post-race penalties for the safety car incident or safety car passing, or just from racing incidents, do we know?
Unfortunately, no, I wasn't able to pick that up. It's not been left in the in-game chat for me to be able to confirm that with you here. So, it is, and yeah, with everything going on here, it's been unfortunately a bit too quick to be able to keep up with all of it, it seems. But yeah, it could honestly be a big combination. I know there were drivers who, were going to get penalised for safety car infringement. So yeah, honestly, it could go many ways. There is got top two kind of fighting for the lead here. Trevor Leonard though under some serious pressure now. As Connor Nixon will slide up the inside here at turn number 13 on this configuration of the Fuji National Speedway to take away third place, and it quickly means that we've now got 4 cars scrapping here. Oh, actually, there is technically more cars in this one here. This pack goes all the way back to 9th, you can see there, with Chase Hoy. All lined up nice and closely. You can see it's definitely Nixon, Kuznetsov, Mazomo, and Leonard. Apologies, let's get that there. It's definitely where it's at here, these 4 cars in particular. So they make their way down towards turn 1. Make sure they pull it up.
Sorry, I was just to say, even in the pack, because Mazomo manages to pull out the fastest lap of the race with a 38.5. So he and Mazomo are trying to slice through this together if they can, using the advantage of being with their teammates to try and make it the double pass happen where they can. Almost getting it done there on Leonard before, but Leonard's fully aware of it. Currently sitting second in the championship as well, so he is very, very capable. He's not going to make it easy for them to make their way through here. And while there's battling at the front between Hearn and Pringle, it does play into the hands of this little battle here. But of course, Kuznetsov and Mazomo will have a little bit of an eye on the rearview mirror with Connor Nixon pressuring them as well. So this pack is alive. You can see there on that interval screen, just bottom right hand corner of the screen. Oh, there's a mistake there from Leonard, and Kuznetsov looks to make it pay, and he does. And it looks like Mazomo is going to try and get the move done with him, albeit the track favours Leonard to defend his position here, and does just that. So a little mistake there. Has let Kuznetsov through, so can he get that back as the pit window now opens? We're under 40 minutes to go in this feature race. Oh my goodness, there's been plenty of action so far. So these guys will just be looking to run now. They won't want to get involved in anyone else's business, and maybe make an undercut happen towards the pit window closing. And get it done. Advantage of the draft here. Well and truly with Mazomo. He's looking to have a dive down the inside into turn 1. Not far enough up this time. So he's going to have to bide his time. Rose getting a drive-through penalty there, right up on the top of the screen. Down for an unsafe rejoin on that one. Just out of all those incidents. So he's on his way through. In fact, that's Connor Nixon in pit lane. So he's choosing to go the early strategy here. So he's going to run long, change his tyres, get the stop done. Now the disadvantage here is that track temperature. Those tyres will be screaming by the end of this one. So he's going to have to make some advantage here of the clean air, which he should manage to get despite the size of the field and the length of the track here. And if he can get out into some clean air and put in some good times, may be able to make the jump. So we'll see how that plays out towards the end of the race. Trevor Hearn still not able to quite break the bank against Jackson Pringle. Just keeping together here, but Kuznetsov has them firmly in his sights. So he's now got that free air that we we're just talking about, so he'll be able to run a little bit. And Leonard and Mazomo will be wanting to go with him.
There's the weather on screen for you now. As you can see also, another drive-through penalty for lap 1 incident has come through. Unfortunately, it's for the 78 of Jono Kylie there, so he'll have to trundle down the lane as it's now effectively top 6 here, lined up nice and tight, with Ben Brayout and Chase Hoy trying to hang on here to make it 8 cars within 5 seconds as we watch Hearn bring the field down towards turn 1 again. Kuznetsov there, and then Tiago Massadou, both clean, fast laps, going to the top of the timesheets for this race so far. They go 38.249. Kuznetsov's was 38.3, momentarily eclipsed there by Massadou, and previously it had been in the hands of Richard May on a 38.4. So fast drivers, it seems, all over the track at the moment, Stu, and he'll be one to watch as this race goes on.
couple of things I like about the top 12. I mean, we see top 10 inverts all the time, but the top 12, I know it's only 2 extra cars, but in a field like this where the drivers, we've got probably 15 different drivers who could take out a win in any given race. It really means that if your night starts out poorly, it can turn around for you, and that top 12 is a good thing. We're seeing it here with Trevor Hearn and Jackson Pringle certainly holding their own against Kuznetsov, who's a known fast driver in these cars. Leonard no slouch, Mazomo no slouch either, neither Thiago Macedo. So it just really helps, particularly where it can be difficult to get a pass done, where the margins are so fine between the drivers, to mix the racing up. It's one of the great things about the series, along with that tyre change rule I really like. So there's plenty to come here. We haven't seen a race just end normally yet, so tonight may be another one of those, or it might be the first. We head down the main straight again after Panasonic corner to complete another lap in this time certain race in the Southern Cross ESports Winter Series, thanks to V8 Drive Day Perth. That's been far from boring so far in this one. Plenty of action as we see a move here down the inside to Kuznetsov. Going to get it done down into turn 1, and look at the opportunist there as well, Trevor Leonard, just saying, I'll get in on some of that action as well if you don't mind. Thanks, Jackson. And we'll make our way through as Mazomo gets aggressive as well. So dominoes starting to fall here. Mazomo gets a good run down into Coca-Cola corner and gets that move done as well. And looking to get a move done there. Leonard very wide on that one. Did he get a slowdown there, or just understeering perhaps?
Just looks like, unfortunately for him, a rough run of it through the double apex 100R. That is turns 4 and 5, and gives up the spot to Mazomo. So, yeah, your top 2 from race number 1 will now be up into 2nd and 3rd, with just Hearn left to negotiate. And a little fight there has cost Mazomo a bit, as Hearn's trying to hold off Kuznetsov here into turn number 11 and up into this double left top 30. Oh, switch back there from Kuznetsov. Hearn tries to shut the door, but Kuznetsov was already there from that angle by the looks of things here, as they'll scrap their way up the hill. But this might have it all said and done, as we'll try and pick up this drone angle shot, Stu, just to try and give you a feel here how this fight's going. Focused on Mazomo there in the 3rd position as we run down the front straight once again. Looks like we'll stay out. Was Kuznetsov going to dive to the pits? No, he's just going to commit all the way to the pit wall here.
Oh wow, this is good driving from Mazomo. There's just plenty of room there, was able to get it done, and look, he may have even had Hearn thinking he was heading into pit lane. The squeeze is on here though. Hearn's not giving up, not giving him any room, goes deep there, too deep, and that allows Kuznetsov, who's jogging on the spot, to say thank you very much. Mazomo and Leonard not going to argue either. They're going to head on their way through as well if they can. Going to struggle there, Leonard, to get underneath him as he maintains it, pushes Mazomo a little wide. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And it's on. Mazomo keeps on pushing the point here. Hearn not giving up without a fight by any stretch of the imagination. And this is really playing into the hands of Macedo and Bray behind him as well. This pack now bunched up completely as Mazomo and Hearn too wide. Oh, and there's a turnaround. There's contact. There's contact there. And it is, unfortunately, Trevor Hearn who has been the one who has come off the worst from that. And that has cost him a number of places. He's going to re-emerge down into P7. This battle continues. Macedo, the benefactor there, and Trevor Leonard the same. So Kuznetsov gets away at the front, but Leonard, Macedo, Breyer, Mazomo, Jackson Pringle, and now Trevor Hearn brings up that pack. He's got a margin, though, to make up now. So really costly there. You wonder if maybe just giving a little room and giving that position was the better move, but I love the way that he fought it. Completely fair driving all the way through there. And we've still got a battle going on for P2. Oof, what a run that was. All the way through as well. Down towards turn 16, they battled. We're going to go too wide here again, down into it. And it's going to be the 5 of Ben Breyer who gets the move done on Thiago Macedo, and he's now exposed to Simon Mazomo. Mazomo, the door just closes a little bit there. Mazomo very aware of the track and what space he had to use, as Breyer and Macedo will look to try and work together here. as much as they can to hold out Mazomo. Jackson Pringle in a good spot here. He's just watching what's going on, just maintaining touch with this group. As you can just see at the top there, the drive-through penalty for Chase Hoyt in the 777 from an incident on lap 7.
Which we might, if we can, jump to a couple of replays here, since we've now had a bit to go through. I want to try and get another angle on the contact there between Mazomo and Hearn, as well as this battle pack does fragment a bit here, as everyone's kept scrapping Pringle up ahead of Mazomo. Whilst I was just looking away, it seems, for a moment there. But first up, Chase Hoy, what's got him limiting himself a penalty here, as we'll go to the first of our replays. So it's number 8 machine there up the inside, and oh, he's going to get a little loose there. That's okay, and oh dear, unfortunately it's just driven across into the side. I believe that's Dean Hunt, the number 8 there, and yeah, can confirm it is. Unfortunately, Dean there really looked like he was minding his own business, and has been completely collected there at the end of their 7th lap of the race. So there was that one. And let's see here if we go back to this one, which is, of course, with Trevor Hearn here. See if we maybe go up top, get an angle on this one here. Ooh, that's going to be an interesting one to dissect, and we'll leave that one to the race control box, I think, because
yeah, absolutely.
It feels like Mazomo's leaving enough space, but Hearn's trying to really lean on him to work that one to the outside at the same time. And I guess it's a question of, well, which driver is most in the wrong there.
It's tough because of the
if there needs
racing
to be
line.
someone in the wrong, I should say, as well.
Yeah, it's tough because of the racing line, as you say. Like, there's plenty of track there to the right of Trevor Hearn, but you know, he doesn't have to run off the track to give room. He can stay within the track limits to do that and quite rightfully defend his position. But was there a little bit more room he could have given? It's a tough one, a really, really tough one. The guys 24/7 have done a great job so far this series, so as you say, we'll leave them to dissect that one. I'd be glad not to be in their shoes for having a look at that, but they'll mull that over. Brodie Watts, a call out to him, 22 spots now up into P9 in the 949 Motorsport entry. And just up on screen there, Connor Nixon, leading car of those cars that have pitted. Of course, he pitted early, we called it. He was running, I think, P4 or P5 at the time. Got in just about 38 minutes to go, so inside the pit window, changed tyres, and his race pace has been okay. He's been able to lap in that sort of 38 second lap time, which is what the leaders are doing. And the benefit to him, of course, is that he's not in a battle pack, so he's not using his tyre as much as those who are in that sort of 2, 3, 4, 5 position where we've seen them battling lap after lap. So if he can maintain that, he may be able to come out in amongst the pack at the end of this one. So he's got a long bowl, a long run up to make this delivery. Great shot here from the right-hand rear corner of Ben Brayer's car. He's still trying to pursue his teammate and work with his teammate, Tiago Macedo. So they will be trying to close that gap down if they can to Trevor Leonard, who's sort of settled a little bit now in P2 because Kuznetsov has the lead here with a gap of 1.2 seconds. So it's not comfortable, but it's comfortable enough that he can now maybe focus a little bit of thought on strategy and when he's going to jump into pit lane.
Yeah, it's a whole game of wait and see here. I think what also will be interesting to see is Mazomo's gotten back by Jackson Pringle. Can he latch back onto the rear of both of Breyer and Macedo, obviously still circulating around together at this stage as they'll wind on up down the front. You can see immediately that slipstream kicking in here as the gap between Breyer and Mazomo ticks up quite healthily in favour of the number 5 as a result. He's going to be close, but not challenge Macedo. Obviously, they're going to, as you said, want to latch on to a fellow teammate, Trevor Leonard, and make that as many cars for the Racecraft Simulations outfit working together here right at the front of things. But yeah, also have fun. We'll try and catch Rick Kuznetsov, but that feels like that might be a bit of a tough ask here, even though it's only about a 1 second margin, 1.1 there. into the big 100 curve. He looks to be pretty calm and in control here, and therefore can afford to maybe be a little conservative in some respects. Look after his tyres, though. That one there, maybe counterintuitive to what I was just saying.
It's like he knew. Just thought he might might hang it out wide there for a little bit, but Rick, very established driver in this platform, and showing us why tonight. Look here at Trevor Hearn, who was leading this race for a little bit, and in that battle with Simon Mazzomo. So he's still fine now. Not really any damage to that car whatsoever. Just a little spin, and he's running in P7, just maintaining that gap to Hughes. Ben Brea under severe pressure now from Simon Mazzomo as an attempted pass was made just ahead of him. But David Hughes there looking to make a move. You can see that Mazzomo right on the bumper. Great shot there. Now he gets down the inside of Brea. This is going to be a move into turn one. He's going to get that done easily, you would feel, and he does so. In fact, he's going to get it closed out pretty much before the turn. Just a little bit of a nose there. Brea left as Mazzomo moves through. He's got a big punt in the back there, Mazzomo as well. Not quite when that happened. It looks like Michael Thompson and Andrew Lachlan have had an issue as well in the background. Focus here is on this pursuit for Simon Mazzomo of his teammate Rick Kuznetsov at the front of the field. Brea's not going to let him go easily. He's going to stay tagged on the back here of the 954 of Simon Mazzomo. Into pit lane comes Michael Thompson and Nathaniel Coburn. So this is almost halfway through the race, deciding to do their stops.
Actually, critically there, about 10 seconds before the 222 went up on its jacks, which means that it was taking fuel independent of the tyres there. So that's quite telling there that for anyone who's come in earlier, so long as they've been able to stop and get fuel in the car, similar to that, presuming that Thompson has got the strategy down right here, although in saying that, still up on the jacks and burning time here. That might be, it's a little longer than other stops in this race. We'll see here how it compares to Coburn, who came in at the same time. Both about the same, although Coburn is still waiting on something here. Down off the jack, should be good to go here, but not gone just yet.
Maybe a stop go of some sort.
Not that I can see.
No? Okay.
You know, no penalties issued by iRacing, so something up there for the 727, unfortunately.
Ben Brea again giving the back of Simon Mazzomo's car a hard time.
This one's for the lead, actually.
Yeah, and we're having a look here at Kuznetsov and Leonard, who's just quietly made up pace. That gap was out to about a minute and a half, a second and a half. A second and a half between Kuznetsov and Leonard, and it has closed right down. As you can see, absolutely nothing between fastest and last laps here. But just ever so slightly, that margin creeping closer and closer, or smaller and smaller between Kuznetsov and Leonard. We've got a horde of cars in pit lane now as well. Pepper Dodds, Hunt, Darua and Akers. And Barry Punter jumping in. We'll keep focused here at the front. So noting as well, Trevor Leonard currently second overall on the championship standings as we head towards halfway through this championship. Kuznetsov, after missing a round last week, and looking to make up his places, currently sitting in P8. So it is very much for strength of positioning, or a strengthening of positioning here as Kuznetsov breaking the draft potentially, or is he ducking into pit lane here? Is he throwing the dummy? No, he's in. So Kuznetsov jumps early, jumps first. 21 and a half minutes to go here. Just over 21 and a half minutes to go. So he's in. Is Mazzomo going to come in at the same time? He is indeed. And there's a fair bit of damage there. Ben Brea follows him in. That's a wise move because he's got pace. So he could get it done here. Trevor Hearn, I think, also into pit lane at the same time. So are any of them going to take fuel? That's the question. We saw some of our other drivers doing it. The 954 there still stationary. So he's
About 11
taken
seconds.
fuel or repaired damage or a bit of both.
Looks like from this angle that 954 rear bumper is still crumpled, but yeah, up on the jacks about 11 seconds after going up, or about entering the pit box. So that says to me a fair bit here that we should be seeing cars that are going to need to take fuel, and that this isn't a simple tyre swap race. There you go, Kuznetsov away with 40 seconds in the box. Mizomo going to get going at about 39 seconds or so saves about a second on his teammate, who'd been running basically most of this race in the clean air. They will file out together. Slow pit stops though. Ben Breyer actually dropping out whilst in the pit box. Now, we did have some issues with his connection whilst we were tracking him earlier in this race, Stu, but looks like unfortunately that's something a bit more severe, as he is reporting is not back out on circuit yet and still completely has dropped substantially, but can't see any reason for him to have completely gone yet from all of our things on this end that I've got.
No, but I'm noting the same thing as well, so that's unfortunate because he was putting pressure on Simon Mizomo and Kuznetsov now out together after that pit stop, and Trevor Hearn as well. So interestingly enough, we spoke about Connor Nixon with that early stop. He's come out behind, let me put the words together correctly. Rick Kuznetsov and Mizomo just in front of Connor Nixon now, so that early stop strategy has worked for him. It's effectively, I think, moved him up probably to P2, P3 range in this race, as Thiago Macedo does jump into pit lane from P2. Trevor Leonard's still going out on track. So we've only got a couple of drivers now who haven't stopped. Leonard, Watts, Howlett and TJ. So they're the only remaining drivers still to make their stops. So the order reshuffle here will be quite quick. We'll get a really good picture of how Connor Nixon's strategy's played out. Of course, he is going to have to manage those older tyres towards the end of the race, having done an additional 8 or 9 laps on those tyres to our other drivers. So that is going to be something he's going to have to bear in mind. But beyond that, it seems to have worked out well for him.
There you go. Mizomo is going to stay net second of our drivers to have pitted in this race. And Connor Nixon is the outlier here at the moment. Had to come into the pits really early. Has Macedo lost it by himself, or has that unfortunately been helped, but definitely not. I didn't think it was close enough to cause contact. There's something quite serious happening there, that's for sure.
Potentially a net code. We'll have a quick look back. There's no damage on the Macedo car, so I'm going to suggest it was a solo. And he's really struggling there. Struggled with a massive amount of understeer. Those tyres will, even though they've just been replaced, will have got very hot in a certain spot.
He's picked up an iRacing black flag somewhere between exiting the pits and that incident as well.
So potentially pit lane exit not executed properly. I saw a spin there as well. I think it might have been John Lee. Let's have a look here.
On board.
I don't think there was any contact.
There's a solo, as you said,
No,
over the curb.
Yeah, the car's bottomed out and it's bounced him. And around she goes. So yeah, and as you say, there's a black flag there as well, which I dare say may be for either incident point accumulation or for a pit exit infringement. As Kuznetsov goes fastest. Here still with Thiago Macedo, so he will have to serve that within 3 laps. Trevor Leonard still out in front, still yet to stop, along with TJ. So Michael Howlett into pit lane now in the 45. He's had a pretty quiet night tonight, Mike. He's generally one we get to watch make his way through the field. Brodie Watts 22 spots up in our adjusted pit order, so he's our biggest mover so far. We'll say TJ there, but he's yet to stop. So Brodie 22 positions in the 949. That's a fantastic effort for him. So he'll get him effectively into P7 after our last 2 stops are completed.
Speaking of stops, Add another one to the tally here as Leonard is in and up on the jacks. See here how this one goes, although in all expectations, I would be shocked if Kuznetsov doesn't come out ahead in all of this, although about 10 seconds left for Leonard's pit service or thereabouts. Kuznetsov winding up to speed and has the tote. Okay, there we go. Leonard away from the lane, although still got a bit of time left. Trundle. Kuznetsov is going to swing by here in a moment, and with the speed, even though Leonard's out past the lane, well, she's going to be a lot closer than I thought. In fact,
he's kept it.
Will, but he's going to give it up here at turn 1, I think.
Oh, and his contact as well. Wow, what an exit there. That was so close, Leonard. I think he knew he had to get out, but cold, stone cold tyres there against the warm tyres of Kuznetsov was always going to be a struggle. And I think that's, is it Nathaniel Coburn in front of him there?
It is, yeah.
Actually did a good job. He was sort of became the meat in the sandwich unintentionally there. He was trying to let Kuznetsov by and probably didn't quite see that Trevor Leonard was there as well to well avoid any damage to our now race leader. Trevor Leonard as well, so then we'll get his tyres up to speed. A couple of laps younger, so that could play a factor later in the race. Because Kuznetsov here will have his head down and be trying to generate as big a gap as he can, knowing that Leonard will not relent. So we're having a little bit of a look for, gee whiz, that was close there as well. It was the 77 entry there of Sam Derua, my apologies. Lost the front of his car there. It's Ben Breyer, who's trying to resurrect after unfortunately suffering, we think, from potentially an internet issue. It meant his pit stop went for much longer than it should have.
If I bring up his teammate Massadou's, yeah, unfortunately, tell the picture of what a normal pit stop should be, and unfortunately what happened to Ben. They were basically together on track, and you can see that about 40 seconds difference has now been reduced to about 20 on our screens as far as in fact, in saying that, Tiago now back into the pit lane serving his iRacing black flag, which has also just been issued to Kyle Ridley in the number 3, unfortunately.
It is unfortunate, and just to give you an indication of where Ben should be, he pitted on the back bumper of Simon Zomo, who's currently in P3, so his night certainly changed, but as will Kyle Ridley's here. So he's down the inside using all of the track there in the Vermilion Motorsport entry. He's going to dive in straight away. No, he's going to keep battling here.
And confirmation that Kyle Ridley has reached 15 incident points. And that is the incident limit, so that is the iRacing issued penalty, which will mean he'll have to take a trip down the lane. And so there's he will. Oh, don't be rage quitting the server there, Kyle, which it looks like he will. Right, that's not too impressive there, and we catch it on screen before that happens there. So
and there'll be penalties coming his way for that, so we'll move on and have another look at Kuznetsov, who certainly won't be doing any of that. And that's a good point. I was going to say Jackson Pringle, so did start on pole here. Currently in P5, maintaining good position with Connor Nixon, our first hitter of the night. And he is just maintaining the gap here. He's got a good margin back to Brodie Watts, 12 seconds as Watts has picked up an extra place there with the penalty Tiago Macedo. And he's just maintaining touch here with Connor Nixon. Not a bad thing. He'll get the benefit of some draft there. And they've got a little bit of work to do to get up to Mazomo if they're going to challenge for the podium by the end of this race. We've just ticked over 12 minutes to go. So looking at roughly about 8 laps in this one, depending on when Kuznetsov, if he's in the lead on that final lap, across the start-finish line. So there's plenty of opportunities still here for Nixon and Pringle to maybe jump onto that podium if they can, to get their head down for the next 4 or 5 laps to see what they can do. They do have a closing pack behind them. Hearn, McMiniman, Hughes, all tied together for 7th, 8th and 9th. And then a little bit further down the pack, as we saw in race 1, 12th and 13th, and right the way back down the field into the 20s are their drivers battling. Jump on again with this drone shot. Fantastic camera angle here. And having a look at the battle here of Trevor Hearn and Jesse McMiniman. In fact, David Hughes there joins the picture. So, got to be aware, track temperature here has actually fallen 3 degrees since the start of the race. 46 down to 43. Doesn't sound like a lot, but every degree helps when it's getting that hot. Of course, warmer track temps will hurt the tyres too if they overdrive. So, in these packs, just wanting to jog on the spot a little bit. It's at that period of the race where you can't do too much. So Jackson Pringle's made a move on Connor Nixon up ahead of this group. And he has indeed down into turn 1 as they go through 2 and through Coca-Cola here. Nixon's not going to have it. He's going to look to challenge back. Oh, and he needed to pull up there. It wasn't quite enough room. Pringle closes the door on that position. So he moves up into P4. Battling with these two is not what they need if they're looking to challenge for the podium. As you can see there as well, Brody Watts joining the battle now. So,
not quite.
Blood.
Yeah, Brody.
Oh no,
still,
sorry, 10 seconds is a lap car.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's another lap car out on circuit, which is going to make the decision. It's getting very close in the meantime. Again, McMillan trying to find a way past Brody's teammate in Trevor Hearn as they wind up to speed here. Out of the hairpin and down through 9 or 300 up, turn 9. And then this now medium speed right-hander before we start the final sector. As a try and find the right spot to get on the power, and these kinds of cars with driver aids is certainly always a little interesting here. So watch these three and try and set up for the run down the front straight away as well. Get yourself turned in early, but don't want to get that big sausage curb, sleeping policeman, whatever you want to call it there. Plus, not go too wide and grab the two there on the outside of the final corner to boot. As it looks like a nice steady run here, but I think Hearn's got just enough to hang on to this 7th position as they head down towards turn 1. But yeah, if McMillan's confident on the brakes, maybe a late lunge here, Stu.
Yeah, we've seen it. Some of the drivers are just fantastic, and literally, you called it. Just really good at closing up under brakes, as we mentioned earlier in the show. No ABS in these cars, so drivers you can really take advantage if you're good on the brakes, particularly in these Porsches, which enjoy a little bit of trail braking as well. As you see there, just McMenamin just taking advantage, and he's going to close the door, and there's contact there. He did close the door, and that has not paid off for him. Again, another interesting one there. We'll have a look, see how far up he was on the inside there. Feel potentially like Trevor Hearn may have done enough there, and McMenamin just may not have quite seen him. So we bring up the replay here. So we're on board with McMenamin here. He gets the run, and he gets it really well done here. And no, that's not far enough up. I don't think so. It's a potential head scratch up.
I think the big issue there is going to be, when you look at that, you sort of say, well, has McMenamin acknowledged the fact that that Hearn was still there and that he's chopped down on a gap that he'd never fully taken? And it's probably the other thing is, I would argue almost the other way. Yes, there's not enough overlap, but it's not a case of Hearn having completely conceded the position and then losing. As interestingly here, unfortunately, it looks like Connor Nixon short on fuel. No black flags to his name, but down on the pit lane once again and heading for his box.
Yeah, no, fuel, the issue most definitely there, and you're spot on. So McMenamin maybe needed to leave a little more room there. Again, can be the downfall of setup differences, potentially not even able to know that he's there. So we'll see what race control say of that one. As there's another incident in the background, looks like Ben Breyer.
Oh!
Coming a cropper again. Contact with Dean Hunt. that Ben Brayer's night goes from bad to worse. As he is in P14 now with some damage to the number 5. Let's have a look at the replay here. Looks like...
So... Oh yeah, nowhere back indeed. Yep, coming in deep.
Just a little tap there, but then the bang in the door. And just a couple of extras to make sure for good measure.
Well...
No questions asked about that one.
He was apologetic about it and didn't mean to, I don't think, as it may have turned out. But yeah, definitely in hot. And then the follow-up taps. He just made it worse, unfortunately, and put a poor Ben completely perpendicular to the circuit. As that's another one of the racecraft cars. It's John Lee, unfortunately. Having a moment there at turn number 10. He'll get it going again. As you can see, unfortunately for John, back down to 30th place, and yeah, definitely having a couple of moments at the behind the wheel. I think I've seen his name flash up, unfortunately, a couple of times, and but good to see out there, still trying to have a good race and enjoy himself, and got plenty of his boys here in Racecraft Simulations colours to support him along the way. Just need to be careful here. As there we go, a couple of drivers will swing by on the inside, so don't think anything too bad about that one there, all in all. Meanwhile, at the front, we haven't checked in for a while, Stu. That's because Kuznetsov has just completely and utterly checked out, it seems, on Trevor Leonard. Gap, as you can see on the timing tower, up to over 4 seconds when it was inside a second after the pit stop. So I think Kuznetsov is looking pretty comfy there. Is Breyer and Hunt both down the line? Okay, we're getting more iRacing black flags flying up here. Andrew Laughlin in the 115 has an iRacing black flag because he's in the pits there. Mike Pepper out on the circuit has an iRacing black flag. Sam DeRua coming down to serve his black flag. And I presume, well we saw Breyer come into the pits, and I presume Dean Hunt as well with him as well. So 45-minute race. You can only afford one off track every, well, less than every 3 minutes. So I guess I can see why drivers are struggling here, but certainly is catching out a few people over the course of this race.
Yeah, and with the heat and with that early race contact that we saw, those sort of pile-ups that we saw within that first 5 minutes, it was no surprise at all to see some of the drivers get there with those contacts, 4 incident points at a time. It's a very easy way to accumulate 15 if you get caught up in it intentionally, or inadvertently, I should say. So, Rick Kuznetsov, you're looking to be our first driver to close out 2 double victories, or 2 complete or clean sweeps, I should say. So he's just a few laps away from doing that. I think with where he is on the track, we'll see 2 more laps in this race. There's Hughes here looking to see if he can find a way past Hearn. And just protecting. Wide there, able to get that number 6 back to the apex, and again here, so it's just burnt the tyre a little bit, you'd feel. And it's playing into Hughes' hands, so Hughes here looking to see maybe if he can get the move done down towards turn 16, and then planning maybe for turn 1, the following lap. So they've done the corner. And the 13. Important here for Hearn to be aware that Hughes loses a little bit there. That's that, again, difference between braking. Goes real deep, way too deep. He misses the apex there on the turn back of Net's corner. And as they round 16, he's now exposed to Harry Dodds in the 981 on the run down into turn 1. So how quickly fortunes can change. It's a little push in the heat, and those tyres just not wanting to participate in the steering wheel. Why'd you go? So Dodds here using the draft. May not get close enough up. We'll see how good he is under brakes. Hughes did well under brakes in the battle with Hearn. He moves out here down the inside. He's going to get it done easily if he can get it pulled up. And he can't. And he goes straight ahead. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Going to surely have to redress that spot with Hughes. It's just a straight lock and bomb. And well, Trevor Hearn is released. Should be a fairly straightforward redress order and all of that there. Now brings McMenamin into this to make it still technically a 3-car fight. And there we go, actually, voluntary redress complete on the track, so that should hopefully clear that one up without any further issues required. Looks like, yeah, no current iRacing penalties, and so they'll go at it again here.
No risk for the wicket at all. So, Dodds looking to try and get that position back again as we flick back. And then look at this one. So you can just see that that push as the leader, Kuznetsov, starts his final lap. Just see that push through that mid-sequence of corners. 8, 9, 10, 11, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12 through Dunlop there. Just really impacted on the tyre, which hurt him. And then unfortunately, just too unable to get the car pulled up was Dodds down into turn 1 and went crusading straight through the corner to the right thing and redressing. So again, here we are. He's about this distance before where he had to go. Is he brave enough to have another look? He is. This time you can see he's just on the brakes a little bit earlier. Gives a little bit of courtesy there to Hughes, who closes the window. There's plenty of chasing going on here. What was that? There's 168 of Connor Nixon. And that's Thiago Macedo. He said at the top of the show he wouldn't die trying, and he certainly isn't. He's down in P12 after that drive-through that he received. And still battling to try and make up that extra place, as any race driver would. So 981 here, Harry Dodds still trying to fight with David Hughes, but having a look on screen here at Rick Kuznetsov, who takes out back-to-back victories here at Fuji Speedway to close out round 4 of the Southern Cross ESports Winter Series. Thanks to V8 Drive Day Perth, Simon Mazzomo comes home in P3, and in the middle there, Trevor Leonard, P2, as this battle continues between Dodds and Hughes for 7th place. McMenamin there just hoping that he might be able to make his way through. Oh, and Dodds gets on the gas too early there, just overdrives it a little bit, which exposes him to McMenamin as they get into the run down the final straight. And McMenamin goes really wide there in the background, so he is out of this battle. And it'll be Hughes who manages to defend that position from Harry Dodds to take out P7 and P8 respectively. In the middle there, Pringle taking out 4th, Brodie Watts 5th, Trevor Hearn in 6th. We're having a look here at Akers. No, we are not. We're having a look. I think that was
Macedo and Nixon.
Macedo and Nixon, there you go. So Connor Nixon, that strategy not quite working out for him with that extra stop required with fuel. Roll the dice. So we're going to see, no challenge on the start-finish line here. It's going to not quite get there. It's a close finish there.
10th of a second.
Keeley. Here's another one on screen. This is Levine and Punter with Dean Hunt in the background. Barry's not going to be able to pull out and get that one done. Or is he?
Nah, their timing line is back near pit entry, so close at 900ths of a second, but not quite will indeed be the answer.
Well, that's another flying 45 minutes there in this series. The races just head on by. 27 laps completed there, and it was Rick Kuznetsov who was able to come from P12 and take the win here. Back-to-back wins for him and a round win on his return to the series for round 4. A fantastic result. Trevor Leonard comes home in P2, and that will see him take out the lead of this championship at the close of the evening. Simon Mazzomo coming home in P3. Jackson Pringle in 4. It's a good run for him in the Virtual Motorsport Mentor number 11 with Brodie Watts. Great drive from him. 26 positions gained, if you don't mind, to take home P5 in the 949 Motorsport entry. Trevor Hearn, his teammate, following him home in P6. It was David Hughes in P7 with the 981 of Harry Dodds. Frog Leap Juice Racing entry in 8 with Jesse McMenamin. P9, and then John Akers rounding out our top 10 entries, or top 10 finishes, I should say, for the feature race tonight. So we flick over the page Tiago Macedo in P11 after his drive-throughs. Yeah, another one for him to forget with Connor Nixon in 12th. Mike Pepper coming home in 13th. Cam Edwards 14th with John O'Keely coming home in 15th. Then it was Richard Mayer up into 16th. 17 positions gained for him. A solid drive in that feature race with a triple two of Michael Thompson in P17. Then Ben Breyer in 18th with Barry Punter 19th and Dean Hunt rounding out our top 20 cars. 21st is Greg Levine bringing it home with Mike Howlett in 22nd, TJ 23rd with Nathaniel Coburn in 24th. Sam DeRoy finishing his start tonight in 25th with Clint Harvey 26th. Rob Crisdale in 27th with Kurt Rose, John Lee and Andrew Lockman rounding out our top 30 cars in this field. And then it was Kyle Ridley, Chase Hoy and Paul Brockbank who featured in the race 31st, 32nd and 33rd.
That they did indeed. Well, that's going to just about do us here. Although waiting to see, indeed, we do have a couple. We have our top three standing by, so we will grab the man who brought it home here first in both races, Stu, and have a chat here with Rick Kuznetsov.
Rick, good to speak to you again. It's only been a couple of weeks actually since we spoke last, missing last round here, but mate, come back straight in, and albeit some work to do tonight, another clean sweep for you. Congratulations.
Mate, it's good to be back. Just trying to get some points that I lost while missing around.
We certainly managed to achieve that with a complete lockout here. How did you find the temperature and the track conditions on your way back through the pack there in race 2?
Dirty, yeah, it's pretty bad. Those long, fast corners with the hot temps as well. The front tires get fried pretty quick. The rears are actually pretty grippy, but yeah, the fronts were a bit of a pain to go for the race.
Well, you've certainly managed to manage it, so we speak, and obviously having to take a little bit of fuel on board there as well. How close was the fuel at the end of the race?
I thought I did it perfect, but I ended up with 3 litres in the end, so my math wasn't that great, clearly.
Oh, 3 litres is not too bad, mate, when you're able to close it out by 6 seconds to the good at the front of this pack. So congratulations for another clean sweep here as we head towards the second half of this championship. Rick, I'm sure there's some people you'd like to thank.
Yeah, big thanks to 95 Simsport for the support, Racecraft Simulations, Tony Race Imperial, RSW Graphics, Racing Ease, and Prestige Sim2 Graphic.
Fantastic, mate. Congratulations on another good night.
Thanks, mate.
So we'll bring Trevor Leonard into the booth now and have a chat with Trev. Trevor, another good night for you, mate, and you come out of this one on top of the championship as we head into the second half of the season.
Yeah, surprising result. I wasn't overly confident in practice coming here, but no, really happy that I was able to stick up with Rick and Simon towards the end.
Yeah, it was a heavy battle there in that early part of that second race, but you managed to get through. It ran a little bit longer in the pit stop too, and just almost managed to get back out in front of Rick as well, but the cold tyres catching you out there on the way out of pit lane.
Yeah, I watched the exit badly. I knew Rick was coming, but I wasn't looking at the lapped car. I think the lapped car ended up battling us for a lap or so, which I wasn't too overly impressed by, but yeah, that caught me off guard, and then I locked up and went wide. But no, credit to Rick. I couldn't keep up with him in that second stint, but yeah, that car is a rocket, man.
Championships are won by banking points, and a 5th in race 1 with 2nd in race 2, mate, will certainly help you there as well with Ben Breyer having an unfortunate night in the feature race tonight. So a good bank of points there, and as always, I'm sure there are plenty of people you'd like to thank.
Yeah, thanks again to the stewards and you guys in the comments box who are always doing a great job every week, so much appreciated. Thanks for the series sponsors, and more importantly our team sponsor Racecraft. John at Racecraft always does a good job, so yeah, thanks everyone. Cheers.
No worries at all. Thank you, Trevor Leonard there, 2nd tonight, and current championship leader going into the second half of the season. And I'm pretty sure here we've got Meza in the booth. I'm just a little bit lost here in my windows. There we go. I'll bring him in now. Simon, welcome to the booth, mate. Congratulations on a hard-fought but well-deserved P3 in the feature race there.
Oh, thanks, mate. And yeah, that was definitely a lot of hard work. That start of the race was pretty chaotic, but yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're up and down there for a little bit, battling with Jackson Pringle as well on your way back through, and not quite able to get through with Rick, and that meant you had to battle hard. But second in race 1, third in race 2, mate. You must be happy with the results overall.
Yeah, no, I should be P2. So yeah, 1-2 for the team outright. So no, like yeah, qualifying wasn't too good. I thought I had more pace than what ended up coming out, but things seemed to go away in race 1. A few people sort of made mistakes on cold tyres, which we capitalised on, and yeah, kind of the same thing with race 2. Just managed to capitalise on a few mistakes from people and just came through the field. So overall, cars felt good. Rick did an amazing job as always. Just commended the whole race, and yeah, managed to bring it home for a good result for the team.
Yeah, we'll certainly keep you well and truly in contact at the top end of the championship standings as we head towards Road America next week. Completely different style of track to what we've had over the last couple of weeks. What are you anticipating there?
Road America is actually one of my favourite tracks, and I've got a really good history there in Porsches. So, yeah, not going to top myself up, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't comfortable going in there. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Who knows what can happen in this championship. There's a lot of quick guys, and they're all pushing us, so yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, definitely one of the things that we remarked on during the show, and Jackson Pringle, who was 12th, started out on pole and finished 4th, just to show against the strength of yourself and some of the other boys. So plenty of quality throughout the field, and nothing's easily gained. So congratulations on your outcome. And I'm sure that there's a couple of people you'd like to thank.
Yes, I remembered sponsors this week. So yeah, big thanks to Racecraft, Turning Race Apparel, RSW Graphics, Racing Ears, and Prestige Photography. And yeah, again, big shout out to the team. They've been awesome, and big shout out to Rick. He's been a big hand. Yeah, just helping me get on top of these cars. So yeah, big thanks to him.
Mate, congratulations, well done on your P2 in the feature race and the 1-2 overnight. P3 in the feature race, sorry, and 1-2 overnight.
No worries, thanks guys.
Well, that just about brings a close to our show here. So we've had back-to-back Southern Cross Esports rounds over the last 2 weeks, but we are back to our usual fortnightly schedule now. So heading off to Road America for round 5 of the championship, and that's coming to you in a couple of weeks. A big shout out, of course, as well to V8 Drive Day Perth for their ongoing support of this series, along with VRace Experience, PPD, and word of mouth signs as well. These series don't happen without them. And of course, a big thank you to Dan for joining us tonight on the stream, mate. Your first exposure to this series this season, and you weren't too disappointed?
Yeah, no, indeed. I have had the chance to see these guys race, but back when it was the Porsche 911 RSR. So this is certainly a slightly new flavour for me. And yeah, it was good racing for the most part that we got to see out here on track. And yeah, the field did string out over the course of the race. I mean, it is a 45-minute event, and there is the pit stops and everything that comes with that strategy, but all the same, you got to see some drivers really going out there down to the wire, which is what you like to see up and down the field as well.
Yeah, of course, a great series for racing. So wherever you are, if you've joined us, thank you very much, and be sure to follow SimSpeed wherever you prefer to watch your racing. So whether that be on YouTube, Kick as well, where we are now as well. Jump on board and follow along, and we will see you again in a fortnight here on SimSpeed TV. There's plenty of action on the channel as well across the week, so if you are wanting to have a look, jump in pretty much any night of the week, and there's always something on, so join the crew for that. But otherwise, we will see you here 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time in a fortnight for round 5 of the Southern Cross Esports Winter Series, which will be live from Road America. Thank you as always for joining us, and good night.